Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, The Offbeat Introvert. This is your favorite offbeat introvert, Raj. In this video, I'm going to talk about my New York trip experience. I hope you have all seen my previous video on how I planned and gone through the process for my New York trip and how I prepared the itinerary for it. So this is the part 2 where I talk to you about what are the things that I've done as part of this trip, the highlights and the important places that I visited, and how I executed my planned itinerary. I'm still not sure on how to explain a 6-day trip in 20 to 30 minutes, but I'll definitely make sure to cover it in a short amount of time as quick as possible. Also, I will not bore you with so much of information, and I'll try to keep this video interesting as well as informative. As I've told you before, I'm not really good at photography or videography, so all the videos and photos that I've taken as part of the trip will not be that perfect. However, I'm learning to take better videos and photos as part of becoming a better vlogger. Also, I'll assure you that the places in the photos and the videos will really be intriguing to you. I have made a montage out of the videos and photos that I've taken as part of the New York trip to share in this video. In my previous video, I stopped at a point where I completed my itinerary. In this video, I'll start from the beginning of the trip when I started here from the Netherlands. I booked my flight on May 28, which is a Sunday. My flight was around 10:30 a.m. So I started from home around 7 a.m. so that I'll have some time in the airport to clear security and clear immigration. I've started from my home around 7 a.m. Even though the Amsterdam has an airport in Schiphol, it is not in the Amsterdam city. However, it is a bit further from Amsterdam, which can be reached via intercity trains. So I had to reach Amsterdam Central Station to get train to the Schiphol airport. Since it is a little bit early, there won't be any bus or tram in the Amsterdam city road. Hence, you can take a night bus or a metro. Since I'm going to Amsterdam Central Station, I prefer taking metro. I've reached Amsterdam Central Station and I got an intercity train that will stop at Schiphol airport. I reached Schiphol airport in around 30 to 40 minutes. Since I'm going to a place in the European Union, the Copenhagen, I did not have the immigration for the United States in the Amsterdam airport. However, I had this process in the Copenhagen airport. Whenever I go on trips, I usually prefer to carry some snacks and milkshake drinks with me so that I don't starve during the trip. This time I've packed some snacks like chips and biscuits along with a chocolate drink called Chocomel. It was tightly packed. However, I was a bit scared that it will be caught in the security as they don't allow liquids past the security in the airport line sometime. I also had luggage weight a bit more than the allowed limit of 8 kgs. I was also a bit skeptical about that. I was a bit lucky because they let me go off the liquid drink and also they did not check for the weight of my carry-on luggage in the airline check-in place. After clearing the security, I reached the airport gate around 9 a.m. Usually, I prefer taking some food with me before I go on any trips. So this time also, I packed similar breakfast for me, which was dal rice, which is one of my go-to favorite food items whenever I go on a trip. I had this food around 9:30 a.m. as I wasn't sure on at what time I will be getting the meal in the airplane. I have boarded the flight on time. However, there was air traffic in Schiphol airport that delayed the takeoff of the Copenhagen flight from Amsterdam. This delay was around 30 minutes and since I boarded a short flight, I did not get any meal. However, I got an option of tea or coffee along with some snacks for this duration of 2 hours in the flight to Copenhagen. I reached with the 30 minutes delay in the Copenhagen airport. I only had 1 hour layover and this caused a huge trouble. On top of this, the first flight landed on gate A, however, and the next flight to the US was on gate E and the gate number was 130th, a long distance to travel from where I landed to where I had to go. And I also have to clear the immigration in the meantime. It was really hectic. I was running like hell with my bag and I had to clear the immigration soon and I was the last person to board that flight. I also had an ad hoc check before I boarded the flight at the airport terminal security and it started beeping when they checked my bag and they had to take all my items out of bag to check with the litmus test. It delayed my boarding to the flight. However, I did board the flight as the last person and there was also a delay in taking off of this flight to the US due to air traffic in Copenhagen airport. Being a person with above average height, I often face issues in the flight due to the legroom space and the ability to sit comfortably in any flights. If you also face similar issues, mention that on the comments. Once I got settled, I got my meal. I was initially planning to take a good picture and video of the meal I get in flight. However, due to a hurry, I forgot to take picture or video of the food I had in the long flight to America. However, I was able to take picture of the snacks and the coffee drink that they gave during my trip. I will usually be not able to sleep in my onwards flight, mostly because I will be either nervous or excited about the trip. However, this time I was able to sleep for a while before I reached New York airport. This time I reached New York airport 30 minutes later than the actual planned time, even with the delay in flight takeoff. Once I reached the New York airport in New Jersey, the EWR, I went to complete the immigration check. There was a funny incident in the immigration line when they asked for where I'm going, but I misinterpreted and told them where I'm from and there was a confusion. However, they were really friendly and the process was really straightforward that I cleared the immigration check and I got out of the immigration line. Next, I had to catch the air train from the airport till New Jersey to board another train called as New Jersey Transit, the NJT in New Jersey. All these processes related to the public transport I came to know based upon the internet research that I have done. This gave me a clear idea on how to use public transport to move from the Newark airport to New York. The process was really straightforward and the trains were really easily accessible. So the New Jersey transit was a bit crowded. However, I was able to get ticket on time without any crowded line, and I reached the Pennsylvania station in New York. At the Pennsylvania station, I had to switch to the subway and get the metro card for 7 days. It was really straightforward process where I was able to select and pay with the cash that I had already. From Pennsylvania station, I directly reached the hostel. I checked in with my luggage, kept my things and locked them. Since there is a time zone change between Netherlands and New York, I had good amount of daytime left. To make use of this time, I went to cover the major attraction called Central Park, which is like a huge park in center of New York. I wanted to cover some of the places today during the daytime and make the most out of day 0. Initially, I planned to go to the Central Park via bus from hostel. However, I dared myself to walk, and which was like a really bad idea, which I regretted later part of the day because I got huge leg pain later, as the distance between the Central Park and the hostel was around 3 miles, which is about 7 kilometers. Since I thought I was scooped up with my leg crossed in the airplane, I thought to walk a little bit so that I can stretch, but it turned out to be a bad idea because the long distance I walked created big amount of pain in my legs. Once I reached Central Park, I took rest for a while and I was really mesmerized by the view of Central Park because it was really beautiful green and it had a lot of places to visit. The first place I visited was Bow Bridge. Then I went to a place called Belvedere Castle, and there are a few more places like Strawberry Fields. I stayed in the Central Park till sunset and I enjoyed the beautiful view until the security of the Central Park came to evacuate all those who were chilling out in the lawn area. After sunset, I wasn't really hungry, so I skipped dinner and caught subway to the hostel to call it a day and take rest. With this, day 0 is complete.
The next day.
Next is day 1. Since it is the first day of the trip after the travel, there will be jet lag, so I did not plan much on day 1. I wanted it to be cozy and relaxing, so I started the day trying the hostel cafe breakfast. I had bagels, which are famous breakfast pastry in America. I thought it would be like really tasty, however it was really dry and it was not as good as I imagined. Along with that, I had iced coffee. Here they will have only little amount of coffee added with a lot of ice, which I do not like, so I did not enjoy the morning breakfast that much on day 1. After breakfast, I left hostel and reached the nearby subway to go to the One World Observatory around 10 a.m. It is one of the tallest skyscrapers in New York, where we can pay to visit the top floor to view the entire New York City from a high angle. I did not prefer going to this as I have already booked Empire State Building and plan to visit another observatory called Top of the Rock. I reached the One World Observatory around 11 a.m. Took a lot of pictures outside. It was really magnificent and it had a lot of glass windows that I admired. Then I went to the next spot, which is the 9/11 Memorial and 9/11 Museum. I was a big fan of the Twin Towers, as I like seeing those two magnificent buildings in the Friends TV series, which I really liked. It was really a great loss I felt when we lost the Twin Towers in the 9/11 incident, and I went to the place and I really liked the way that they created a beautiful water fountain along with the carvings of names of all those who were in the buildings when they collapsed. I paid my homage with 2 minutes of silence and spent some time in the 9/11 Memorial. Then I went to the 9/11 Museum. I did not go inside the 9/11 Museum because I did not have much of time and there was a huge line waiting out of the museum to visit it. Next, I went to the Oculus, which is like a differently architectured, marvelous building, which is a shopping mall containing a lot of shops and stores in it. It was really beautiful from the outside, also from the inside, which had a lot of stores, including Apple store, which I spent some time on, took rest, and then I left the Oculus after a while. After that, I was planning to have lunch at a place called Silo Italian Panini, but it was really expensive and I did not want to spend so much on that place. So I went to a nearby place called Zoe's Pizza, which is one of the famous pizza chains in America. If you have seen the movie Internship, this is the chain of restaurants that the folks in the team will convince to make an online website of to win the internship in that movie. Next, I went to the Wall Street, which had important stock exchange related companies and buildings like the New York Stock Exchange. I spent some time in there, took some pictures and went to the next place, which is the ferry boarding point for Staten Island. Staten Island is a small island far from New York, which had a free ferry link to reach from New York to Staten Island. There was a lot of people that were waiting to board the ferry. Once I boarded the ferry, it took around 30 minutes to reach Staten Island. While going on the ferry, I crossed the Liberty Island, which had the Statue of Liberty in it. I took a lot of pictures, and once I reached Staten Island, I came to know that there is nothing much to see in there. It had a lot of factory outlets and stores, which people were waiting to buy stuffs on. I spent some time there and I just got the return ferry from the Staten Island back to New York. After reaching New York, I went to a place called Soho. It's one of the nightlife streets in almost all cities that I know of. I have seen Soho in London, Amsterdam and a couple of other cities as well. I spent some time in Soho, took few pictures and returned back to the hostel. While returning back, I had my dinner at McDonald's near the subway station for the hostel. With this, day 1 is over.
the next day.
Next is day 2. The highlight of today is Statue of Liberty, the Liberty Island and Ellis Island. I have pre-booked to visit the Statue of Liberty around 1:30 p.m. in the afternoon. So I had some time in the morning that I planned to visit few of the places before I reached Statue of Liberty. Today I started from the hostel around 10 a.m. It was a bit late than I planned, and I had my breakfast in the Dunkin' Donuts nearby. I had some donut and some pastry stuff along with coffee. It wasn't that great compared to the hostel breakfast. However, I just wanted to have something before I go, so I tried it here. So the first place I visited today is the Tenement Museum. It is a museum that contains data and artifacts about how immigrants and refugees came to the United States and they have settled in the United States of America. Next place is the Charging Bull. It's one of the famous statues of a bull representing how busy the stock market gets in the Wall Street in the United States. So it was one of the crowded places that I've been to because it's one of the important photography places in New York, and there was like three different clients standing on three different directions of the bull to take different types of pictures. I stood in two of those lines and took a picture, and I got out of the place to the next place, which is the Battery Park. It's one of the parks that exists in the point where the Liberty Island ferry starts. So it had some of statues and some of the places to relax and chill for a while. I reached the Battery Park around 12 p.m. and I had some time, so I relaxed for a while and I just joined the line to the Statue of Liberty cruise around 1 p.m. It had a straightforward security check for like 15 minutes. After that, I entered the cruise, and it took around 20 to 30 minutes for me to reach Liberty Island. It was really great to travel, and I was really excited to visit the Statue of Liberty for the first time in my life. I took a lot of pictures and videos in the cruise while I was going to the Liberty Island. Once I reached the Liberty Island, I spent some time around, and I was looking for places to take pictures. Since I booked Crown Access, I entered the line and I visited the Crown Access. So the Crown Access can be reached only via steps. I had to climb steps for a while to reach the top of the Statue of Liberty, and it had a like great view from the Crown to the New York City. I enjoyed it, and I took a lot of pictures, and I just got down with the Statue of Liberty, and I was taking a good amount of pictures here as well. At this point, I was feeling a little bit emotional that the thing that I was holding as a dream has become a reality at this point of time. Hence, it was like really a happy moment in my life so far. After visiting the Liberty Island, I went to the Ellis Island on the same cruise as part of the same ticket that I have booked. Ellis Island is the place where refugees and immigrants come to the United States via ships, and they dock there, register the names and where they're coming from before they enter the United States. It had a lot of intrinsic details about this, how immigrants and refugees entered the New York as part of this docking station in the Ellis Island, and I spent some time in the museum and enjoyed it for a while. They also had a park along with a cafeteria where I had my lunch. Here I had hot dog for lunch, which was really terrible. I did not like it. However, they had unlimited ketchup and mayo, which I used to eat my chips that I brought as part of my trip snacks. After the Ellis Island, I went back to the Battery Park in New York, spent some time there, and I went to the next place called National Museum of American India, New York. This is a museum which has a lot of details about how a lot of Indians came to America and settled and became citizens of America. Being an Indian who was so much interested in America, I wanted to visit this place. However, the timing was off, and when I reached around 5:30, the museum was closed, and I went back disappointed. After this, I visited a place called Chinatown, which is a Chinese neighborhood in New York where there are a lot of Chinese restaurants, supermarkets, and stores. I spent some time there for a while. I was planning to have dinner there as I found a TripAdvisor recommended cheap place to eat chicken dim sums or momos, which I'm a great fan of. So I found this place, had my early dinner, and took a lot of pictures of Chinatown, and went to my next place, which is Little Italy, which is similar to Chinatown, where Italians came to New York and settled in this neighborhood. It had a lot of Italian stores and restaurants. I took pictures for a while, and it was really colorful as well. And I went back to hostel via subway. With this, day 2 is done.
The next day.
Then starts day 3. Today's highlight is the American Museum of Natural History, which is one of the biggest museums in New York. This is shown in movies like The Night at the Museum, which is one of my favorite movies in the childhood. So today's morning breakfast I had in the hostel cafe itself. It wasn't really great, but I tried a couple of other things, and I just got my coffee and got out of there. I got my subway around 10 a.m. and I have this museum booked for 10:30 a.m. So I just reached the place and entered the queue to enter the museum. So this is a huge museum, so it at least takes around 5 hours to complete it. It is a great place for children to spend time with. I planned this museum for around 3 hours today, and it was like a lot of things to go through in like a short amount of time, and I got really big amount of leg pain just trying to walk around the floors of this museum. It had a lot of different sections like animals from different countries, cultural monuments, and a lot of scientific and astrological things that are intriguing to science enthusiasts like me. After the museum, I went to the next place called the Plaza, which is like a biggest 5-star and luxury hotel in the New York area. So I just took a lot of pictures around it, and I went to the next place called as the Modern Museum of Art, which is called as MoMA. I wasn't having enough time to enter this. Also, I'm not that into art, so I didn't visit this museum. After this, I went to a place called Fifth Avenue, which is like a lot of commercial buildings and famous hotels around New York is present in this area. After this, I went to a church called as St. Patrick's Cathedral. When I went there, the church was closed, so I just took a lot of pictures around the church, sat there for a while, and then got to the next place, which is called the Summit One Vanderbilt, which is one of the tallest skyscrapers in New York, which has like a good view of the New York City. Then I went to the Grand Central Terminal, which is one of the biggest railway stations in New York, which was like one of the oldest buildings with different architectural designs. I enjoyed staying there, took a lot of pictures around there, and then I went to the next place, the New York Public Library. I thought it will be like a huge hall kind of thing that I've seen in movies. However, due to reconstruction, they closed many parts of the library and they only opened few parts for exhibition. Then there were also parts which were opened for thesis and research scholars who can visit this part of the library to refer books for their research and thesis. Then I visited the extended new building of the New York Library, which was like a really beautiful new building which had a lot of books. I spent some time there and then I left to the next place, which is the infamous Times Square, which had a lot of beautiful ad displays and screens which were like flashing around and entertaining a lot of folks around there. It is one of my favorite places to visit in the list, and I visited it today evening during the sunset, and I enjoyed the time there with a lot of folks who are taking photographs around. I really admired the Nasdaq building there, and I spent some time and I then got to the hostel via subway. Today also I skipped dinner as I was really tired. I went to the hostel and called it a day. With this, day 3 is done.
The next day.
Next is day 4. The highlight of today is the Empire State Building, which is one of my favorite places in New York, and I was very much eager to visit it. I was a huge fan of Empire State Building because of the movies. It's one of the oldest, tallest buildings and skyscrapers built in New York, and it is also famous in movies like King Kong that I'm a great fan of. Today's breakfast I also had in the cafe, where I tried cinnamon roll along with coffee, and I went to catch the subway to the Empire State Building. I was really excited to visit the Empire State Building, so I pre-booked for a 10:30 entrance ticket, and I was on time for that. And I was really excited to get to the specifics of how Empire State Building was built. I took a lot of pictures. I went to the 86th floor, and I took a lot of pictures there as well, and enjoyed the view for a while. The funny thing is, if you are in an Empire State Building top view, you cannot take picture of the Empire State Building. So I just took the picture of the entire New York City from Empire State Building, spent some time, and also had like a little bit of emotional moment there that one of my dreams have come true at that moment. After visiting Empire State Building, I went to the next place called The Edge, which is also a skyscraper in New York. Then I went to the place called as Vessel, which is a cone-shaped tallest building that was really interesting to look at. It had like a spiral stairs to visit the top. However, the stairs were closed, but they allowed to take pictures at the ground floor. So I went to the ground floor, took pictures, and stayed there for a while, and went to the next place, which is like the Hudson Yards skyscraper, which is like a shopping mall and the tallest building in that area, where I spent some time, took pictures, and I went to the next place, which is the Highland Park. I thought it is like a small park. However, it was like a long road. Alongside the road, there were a lot of trees and places that were created to make people rest. I just walked around 2 miles to cover this Highland Park. It was like a really painful experience, and it was really sunny as well. However, at the end, when I did it, I reached a place called as the Greenwich Village, which is where I was actually planning to have lunch, but it got a little bit late, around 3 p.m. However, I was really hungry and went to the Starbucks nearby, and I had a vegan burger along with a mint milkshake, which was really terrible because it had a lot of crushed ice in it. I did not like it at all. After that, I went to the next place from the Greenwich Village via subway called the Rockefeller Center, which is one of the tallest buildings as well, which is mostly famous for filming a lot of TV shows and live shows like the Jimmy Kimmel. I went there, and I also was planning to visit the top of the rock, which is the observation deck at top of the Rockefeller Center. I did not book for this because I wasn't sure on the time that I will be able to visit this. So I just went to get the ticket, and I was shocked to hear that there is a prime time extra fee of $15 on top of the actual fee of around $50. I felt like it was like a scam because I went around only 3:30 to 4 p.m. and they were like telling it was a prime time, which was unbelievable. But I regretted and bought the ticket because I wanted to visit the Empire State Building from another skyscraper. So I chose this one, and I just got over with the regret, and I went to the top. I enjoyed the view, especially to the Empire State Building, but I did not like any other part of the top of the rock at all. Next, I went to the place called Hell's Kitchen, which I came to know as part of the Marvel series Daredevil. Here I went to the Intrepid Sea and Air Navy Museum, which was like a collection of Air Force and Navy related artifacts. I did not have so much time to visit this, so I went to the next place. In order to visit the next place, I was trying to get a bus, but the Google suggested route was cancelled, and I had to walk for a long time to visit the next route bus. And finally, I got the bus to the next place, which is Harlem, which was also a part of Marvel series called as Luke Cage, which is an African American neighborhood. It was a bit unclean. However, I really enjoyed the graffiti and wall paintings that are present as part of Harlem, along with the beautiful buildings and different types of architecture in this neighborhood. From Harlem, I got the subway to hostel, and I called it a day because I wasn't interested in having dinner today as well due to dehydration and long walks. With this, day 4 is done.
The next day.
Next comes the day 5. The highlight of today is the entire city of Brooklyn, which is on the east side of New York, Manhattan. So it is a famous place shown in a lot of movies and TV shows like Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I also wanted to visit it because of the two major attractions, the Brooklyn Bridge and the Manhattan Bridge, which has a good view from the Brooklyn area. Today I had breakfast at the hostel, and I got subway to the start of the Brooklyn Bridge, which is like a long bridge. It's one of the famous bridges that is shown in a lot of movies like the Marvel movies. Whenever the supervillains try to hit and destroy people, it is the first place they go and collapse. I really loved the bridge. However, it was really sunny and I had to walk a long distance to cross this bridge. I was really sweaty when I completed crossing the bridge. Once I crossed the bridge, I went to a place called as Dumbo, which is like down under the Manhattan Bridge overpass, which is like a good view from Brooklyn to both the bridges, especially the Manhattan Bridge, which is also like one of the famous bridges that are shown, and also one of my favorite places due to my bridge craze as well. I loved both the bridges. I took a lot of pictures in the park nearby where I can see both the bridges from there. I really enjoyed the moment. I also had a little bit of an emotional moment because it's one of my dreams to take pictures from both Manhattan Bridge as well as Brooklyn Bridge. I had a lot of imagination going on before I reached the place. However, when I looked at the actual bridge, I wasn't really excited because it was just a bridge and it wasn't that fancy as well. But I was really glad, really proud, and really happy that I was able to achieve this particular dream of reaching New York at this moment. After spending time under the bridges for a while, I went to the next place, which is like the Brooklyn Bridge Park, which was a cozy place to take rest for a while. And then I went to the next place, which is called as the Time Out Market. Buildings which had a lot of places to eat with a view for the Brooklyn Bridge along with the Manhattan Bridge. I did not eat anything there. I took a lot of pictures and I went to the next place, which is the East River Ferry boarding point. East River flows between Brooklyn and Manhattan, and East River Ferry takes folks from Brooklyn across different places of the city. So I wanted to go to this place called as Marsha P. Johnson State Park, which is like a big park at the end of East River, where I got the paid ferry to reach this place. And once I reached there, I took rest for a while, had some milkshake, and then I went to the next place, which is the Brooklyn Bowl, which is like a bowling alley. But I wasn't sure on how to enter it, and I did not know the protocol to enter as well. So I took pictures from outside and went to the next place, which is the Brooklyn Brewery, which is a beer brewery along with a bar and a restaurant where a lot of people was hanging out. I did not eat or drink anything. However, I took pictures of the brewery and I went to the next place, which is a restaurant called L'Industria Pizzeria, which is like a cheap and good place to get pizzas and drinks. I went there and bought a couple of slices of pizza, enjoyed it along with the drink, and I went to the next place called Williamsburg, which is a neighborhood in Brooklyn, which had like a different types of old architecture buildings, and I was hanging out in there for a while. However, I did not like it because it wasn't that clean. Then I got subway from Williamsburg to the hostel and I called it a day since I had early dinner at the pizzeria. With this, day 5 is done.
The next day.
Next is day 6. Technically, it is the last day in New York and I have booked my flight from New York to the Netherlands around 2 to 3 p.m. in the afternoon. So I did not plan much on this day. However, since I had some time, I planned to visit the rest of the Central Park on this day. First, I checked out from the hostel because the checkout time is 12 p.m. and I will be charged extra another day if I did not check out around 12 p.m. So I checked out my luggage and I put them in the lockers for $5 charge, and I just gone out to enjoy the remaining time I have in New York. Today I wanted to visit some of the museums around Central Park that I missed on day 0. The first place I visited was the Frick Collection, which is a museum that I reached via bus from the hostel. The museum was closed for renovation, but I took some pictures for Frick Collection. I went to the next place, which is the Metropolitan Museum of Art, famously called as the Met. I did not have time to visit the museum today. Also, I wasn't that much into art, so I took pictures from the outside and I went to the next place called the Guggenheim Museum, which is like a beautifully architectured museum building around the Central Park. There were a lot of people waiting to visit this. I also did not have time for this. However, I took pictures of the museum and I went to the next and the final place of today, which is the Museum of City of New York. I wanted to go inside of this, but I did not have much of time, so I just took pictures from outside of the museum and I went to hostel via subway. I went to the hostel, I collected my luggage, and then I started out of the hostel around 12:30 p.m., which is the usual planned time that I had in mind as part of the itinerary. From hostel, I reached the Pennsylvania station in New York via subway. Then from Pennsylvania station, I got the New Jersey transit and reached New Jersey. From New Jersey, I caught the air train to reach the airport in Newark, which is the EWR airport. I reached the airport around 1 p.m. and I had a little bit of trouble in the airport security because of the water bottle and the leftover chocomel drink that I had, but it wasn't much. I was able to drink them and I was able to go through the security again to clear it, and I went to the gate in Newark airport. In the Newark airport, the airline folks collected my luggage as there wasn't much of space in the cabinet in the airplane. So I gave them a hand luggage and I went to sit in my flight from Newark to Copenhagen. This time I really had bad experience in the flight because because they gave me a beef meal which I did not like at all. However, I did not complain. I had it because I was really hungry. Then it was delayed like crazy from New York to Copenhagen because I booked the next flight with an 1 hour layover. However, the flight it took off after like 45 minutes. I wasn't really sure that whether it will reach on time, and it also created a lot of problem for my layover as well. I reached the Copenhagen airport with just 20 minutes left to board my next plane, and they left me in E gate. However, my boarding plane was in A gate. I faced the same trouble that I faced during my onwards flight. So I had to run from one gate to another gate, and it was like a really huge distance in numbers. It was really uncomfortable for me. I ran like hell. Even though I did not have my luggage, I faced problems with the luggage at the end. I also had to clear the immigration at Copenhagen, and there was a huge line standing in front of me. I just apologized to a lot of folks in front of me and cut the line by telling that I just have to catch the flight in next 10 minutes. They were really understanding and they let me. I cleared the immigration with just like 8 or 7 minutes left, and I boarded the flight as the last person to enter it. Finally, I entered my flight to Amsterdam from Copenhagen. It was just around 2 hours, and I got some snacks and tea in the airplane. I had it, and I then reached Amsterdam the next day morning around 9 a.m. Unfortunately, my luggage did not make it because there was only a small amount of time before the luggage can be switched. I just reported this to the airline and they gave a response. It was a big problem that I faced once I arrived, and I reached by thinking about this problem to home. That's it. This wraps up my entire solo trip to New York for the first time in my lifetime, and it was also like a one hell of a trip. Wait for my next video, which is the part 3 of this entire trip, which will have the entire trip review, the problems that I faced, and the good things I had as part of this trip, and some tips and tricks that you can use in your future trips. It will be a really short video, and you'll definitely enjoy it. Share your comments about this video, my thought process, and what are the things that you like as part of my trip. Keep supporting my channel. Don't forget to share this video to your friends to make them know that there is an introvert like me exists in this world. Also, do not forget to press the bell button to get notifications for my next and my future videos. Subscribe to my channel, support to my channel, and thanks for watching.